Hi guys, welcome to lesson 4, handling criticism. This lesson is going to be about how to stop making other people's judgments your identity, how to feel free from criticism, how to not be reactive, how to not care, and how to start using criticism as a tool for development and self-development, actually. Look, criticism can be different types, right? It can be constructive, it could be non-constructive criticism. And so with constructive criticism in social media, for instance, it will be most of the time what you will hear in social media will be not going to be a constructive criticism. But before I go into it, let's talk why does it feel so threatening? Why are we so scared of it? Why does it scare the hell out of us? So see, here's the thing. It hurts because it pieces the ideal self. So in previous lessons, I've already explained what the real self is and what the ideal self is. And so really what it does, it pieces the ideal self because we all have that ideal self. I remember, let me give you an example. When I started, I think I might have already given that example, but anyhow, when I started making videos, I was confused whether to call myself a psychotherapist or a psychologist, because when you're a psychotherapist in Russia, technically you can call yourself a psychologist. It's not as strict as in Western countries, for instance. So in Russia, everyone calls themselves a psychologist. It's not like a term that you can only use if you have completed PhD in US. Do you get what I mean? Or like Masters of Clinical Psychology in Australia. So I remember how I was calling myself a psychologist, but really in reality in the West, people did not understand. And so I started receiving a lot of criticism because I think I might look young, even though I'm not very young. And so people started attacking me. And I have ideal self. In an ideal world, I carry PhD, but I'm not yet there. I've studied psychology for the past 6 years, but I'm a bit far away from PhD. So that is my goal. That is my ideal self. My ideal self has PhD in psychology, but I do not have it yet. And so I started receiving a lot of criticism saying, you're not PhD, don't dare you call yourself a psychologist. People were attacking me like ruthlessly. So it affected me for sure because it triggered my ideal self. Okay, and my real self at that point, in that specific situation, I was not very much connected to not like very much connected. I understood what my real self, but there was like sort of like a battle going on between my ideal and real. It was an inner conflict. What do I call myself? How do I call myself so I feel comfortable and so other people will understand me? So in the end, I decided to, because I studied psychoanalytical psychotherapy, so I will just call myself a psychoanalytic psychotherapist. And I decided that because since I speak for, the English-speaking population, I'm not allowed to call myself so. I'm not allowed to call myself that. So this is an example to explain to you that, see, when your ideal self, why criticism will affect you negatively, because your ideal self gets impacted. For instance, you're a blogger, you just started, and you're telling them about your success story. So I had a client who started posting about his success. He's relatively young, he's reached a certain point, degree of success, and he wanted to share his story and he wanted to inspire people. So obviously there were a lot of hateful comments and people basically writing horrible, nasty things saying, how can you prove it? How can you prove that you're successful? Prove that you didn't buy it all. Prove that you didn't buy your status. Prove that, prove this, prove that. And people constantly will be searching for proof. This is what happened with me too. People started emailing me and messaging me and telling me, send us your credentials, send us your diplomas, which now I have it on my website, so no one just bothers me ever again. But here is the thing, people will try digging and searching and asking you to prove this and prove that. But why do they do that? Right? And by the way, the stronger your ego ideal, the more fragile your real self becomes. So why do people do that? The thing is, when someone criticizes you, they trigger you because they're kind of like saying you're not that, you're not who you seem to be, or who you are, who you want to be. And so that triggers shame, because shame is an essence of ideal self. Therefore, you can collapse. I've already mentioned this in my previous lessons, that when you're criticized, your inner dialogue will change and it will sound something like, I'm not good enough. They're right. I should have done better. They'll see that I'm a fraud. So the inner critic is very strong. And that's why I created meditations in my last module, you to listen to meditations and for you to undo that voice, to undo that, to work around it, to work with it, to change it. You know what I mean? So it's not about logic. It's about your child part that remembers being scolded instead of guided, remembers being misunderstood, remembers being told that you're bad, instead of you made a mistake, right? It's not just you made a mistake. You can fix that because it's just a mistake. But no, if you make one mistake, all of a sudden you are the evil and you are bad, which is completely wrong. So criticism reawakens the helpless child who could not defend themselves. But here is the thing. Criticism is often a projection. It's not a mirror. It's a projection. So what people say about you reveals who they are more than who you are. So it reveals about them. It reveals a lot about them than you. It talks about them. If they sit there criticizing, if they sit there writing nasty comments, that means they cannot accept certain traits within themselves that you have. So let's go into some examples. Some people would say, oh, you think you're too good, you're too confident, you're too cocky, right? That's the scenario. So let's say the scenario could be that you post a very bold video or you speak in a presentation boldly. You speak your opinion clearly and openly. And that critic says something like, you're too full of yourself, you're trying too hard. Who do you think you are? So what happens? Why do they say this? Because they feel insecure in their own voice. They're blocking their own aggression. They're blocking. They have autoaggression. These people hate themselves, guys. I swear to God, these kind of critics who write these critical comments, these guys, they hate themselves. And when you hate yourself, what do? You hate others because it's so easy. Because you project outside into the world. Your internal world gets projected outside. So they abandon themselves. They don't love themselves. And there you come, you're so confident and you say things that you want to say and all of a sudden it triggers them. It will for sure, it will trigger them because they have this inner shame that if I'm confident, then I will be bad. I cannot say what I want to say. I'll be perceived a certain way. So really they wish that they could be like you, funny enough, but they cannot. They cannot. Now let's take another example. You're so selfish. You are inconsiderate. You're cold. Comments like these. This is the martyr complex. So it's like a victim. Okay. You have set a boundary, or you have said no to something that drains you, and that could be in the content form. So in the content form, you have shown within the content that you created, you have shown that I'm not going to do that. And I've had that happen to me, where I've recorded a video about why you should not pity men. And why you should actually uplift them and encourage them, but not sit there like, poor you. No, like men, they react well to encouragement because they have the power. And so that's actually a very empowered type of video. It's to empower. But of course, there will be victims who will look at it and who will say something like, oh my God, you're so inconsiderate. You are horrible. You should not be a therapist. Well, what's happening there, right? Let's look at this. It's a victim. These type of people, they build their identity on self-sacrifice and they cannot tolerate when someone prioritizes themselves. So highlights how much they betray their own needs. So they cannot say no. They cannot be bold enough to reject something, some type of behavior or anything like that. And they will resent you for doing it. They will resent you for doing that. Does not talk about you, talks about them. Another example. You're too sensitive. So let's say you talk about, again, something that I've done too. You speak up about being hurt or like a painful experience that you've gone through. And the critics, they could say you're a victim, you're too sensitive, you're too dramatic, you're too emotional, or any type of comment like that. So what's actually happening? What's going on? They are disconnected from their own emotional life. They are disconnected from grief. They cannot grieve. They cannot be emotional. They cannot be sensitive. They cannot allow themselves to be sensitive and emotional. They cannot react well to someone else's grief because they cannot allow themselves to grieve. I will give you an example. It's not related to social media, but I remember with one of my ex-partners, I remember how every time he would get sick, I would be there for him, supporting him and uplifting him and, trying to help him stay alive and not sick, making teas and all that. But when I got sick and I needed to go to the hospital, all of a sudden he got very defensive, very, even though the person was wonderful, the wonderful person, but got very angry for needing to be in the hospital, very resentful. And so I realized that it was not about me. It was about him. And then, I realized that this person never wanted to go to a hospital, never wanted to speak to doctors. He had like resentment towards doctors and he hated hospitals and doctors. That's his own story. It's not about me. That's his own story. But it got reflected like that in the story with me, right? So basically, your sensitivity, your vulnerability, it will trigger their own like emotional numbness. It will make them feel deeply uncomfortable. So it's a projection of disowned emotional vulnerability. So really what they mean is that I had to shut down my feelings to survive and you make me feel unsafe. Funny. So, but that's what happens. So understand that it has nothing to do with you. It's to do with them. Now, these fun guys, you think you're better than everyone. Let's say you grow, you change, you show up as more authentic, you show up that you have achieved certain things and you think you're better than everyone. But see, here's the thing. There is a commonality in Instagram where people almost like narcissistically show up in their social media. That is true. And see, the thing is, it's true that there's a lot of narcissism these days in social media. Everyone's trying to showcase their car, their watch, their successful, happy relationship, even though it might not be one, trust me. The car might be rented, So the people are trying to showcase all these things, successful success. So it does happen. So now the critics will say, you've changed, you're fake now, you think you're better than everyone. It happened to me with my old classmates where they saw me living my life, to my fullest. And I work hard, I work really hard. When I work really hard. But they don't see that. They don't see that behind social media. They see the beautiful picture. They see, me living somewhere in a beautiful location, beautiful place, getting things done, making my dreams come true. So what happens? Oh, you're better than everyone, or you think you're better now, you're so fake, you're this and that. Well, what's actually happening? Let's see. It is a shame about their stagnation. So they have stagnated. They have not moved. They have not been able. They do not have enough healthy aggression to show up. And they fear being left behind or exposed for being small. But really, it's just it's basically them not being, they don't feel like they're worthy of success. And when they see another person's success, then they call it fake. They call it many different negative words, basically. So really what happens is that you growing reminds me that I'm not. And it's shame. It's shame about not being able to have enough energy and whatever resources it takes to be successful. So what to ask yourself when criticized? Is this person projecting? Because probably the person is projecting. Is there a pattern to this kind of feedback? Am I learning from multiple sources that I trust? Am I getting the same feedback from different multiple sources? Because if you are, then you could look into it, but again, it really depends. It really depends. Very much depends. If you want to, let's say, if you feel something, you can always contact me and I can help you out. What part of me is activated? Because there can be a part of you activated that can be, you might be reacting from your child part, from your sensitive, adapted child. And I've explained about adapted children already, right? So it might have activated your child. That means that the wounded child has been activated. And this is one of the reasons why I hope that you will listen to these guided practices at the very last module. I created them for a reason. Is it about identity or behavior? So it's criticism of who I am or what I did. Look, when you get criticized, honestly, it's best to not react with shame. If that has happened, listen to my guided practice, guided meditation, and calm your senses down, breathe in, breathe out, and then understand that it's probably, if it's very triggering, that means you believe it. You believe that about yourself. If someone tells you some criticism and it triggers you massively, that means you believe that criticism. It means not like you believe it. You believe that about yourself. If someone calls you stupid, basically, and you get triggered and you're all like emotional about it, then I'm sorry to say this, but then it probably means that you think you are stupid. If someone says, oh, you're ugly, then a part of you who gets triggered, a part of you thinks that you are ugly, for instance, or you're stupid, or many things. People always talk so much crap online. So if it's something that triggers you and you cannot reflect, you can't really sort of like pull away yourself from it, listen to the guided practice that I've created. But also additionally, if it doesn't help, then you can contact me and we can work on that, because that means like it's a deep-rooted belief from your childhood, unfortunately. Now, handling criticism. So how do you handle criticism? When it really stings, it's disproportionate. When it lingers, when it spirals into shame, it usually means that it has touched a part of you that you haven't fully accepted or owned. That's basically what I just told you. It's a part of you is wounded and you have not fully accepted that part about you. So boundaries are so important. I cannot repeat it again and again and again. You do not have to accept every opinion just because it's offered. And in social media, it gets offered all the time. People think that they can just say their opinion just like that, and people care. In my videos, when I share my videos, I ask people to comment because I care. But in Instagram, I feel like people just do it for the money. So people don't really care. And then people sit there typing, but no one cares. Oh well. Your protection is the boundary. So you don't have to comment, thanks for your input, but I'm not available for unsolicited advice. Restrict, block, remove, report, whatever. Feel free to do that. Because if you're receiving some hateful comments, there's no need to respond to that negativity. There's no need to be involved in that negativity. That negativity will drown you. You will be drowned in it. It just shows these people that you have reacted. You don't need to show these people your reactions. Trust me, it does not matter. That's all they're waiting. It's all they're waiting from you is to get that reaction out of you. Don't give them reaction. If it's not constructive criticism, do not give the reaction. But if you want to be, if you really want to, then feel free to say, I don't engage with feedback from people who aren't building anything themselves. That is like a bit of a, slap. Silence. My favorite, silence, because not every attack deserves your energy. It does not deserve your energy. These things do not deserve your energy unless it's constructive. How do you know it's constructive or unconstructive? Constructive is very specific and actionable. It focuses on the work or behavior. It comes from someone invested in your growth. Invested in your growth. It's usually non-triggered. It's usually kind. It expresses a different opinion without shame, without guilt. It's not guilt trippy. It's not shameful, okay? Unconstructive is full of shame. They're trying to shame you. They're trying to guilt trip you. They're being vague. They're not bringing facts. They're trying to attack your character or your identity. And it comes from someone who's projecting pain, envy, or control. So it feels shaming, confusing, and manipulative. So silence is the best thing for these kind of comments, and you can always restrict. You can always restrict on YouTube, on TikTok, and Instagram. There is a button for that for a reason. There's a restrict button for a reason. So I hope you guys, thank you for watching this lesson. I really hope you got a bit empowered and shaken up a little bit and understood that it's not about you. The criticism has nothing to do with you. It's about them. It's about people. It's about people, and it's only about people. If it's not constructive. If it's constructive, then they're just trying to help you out. It's not going to be shaming or guilt tripping. It's going to be very neutral. Could be kind. Could be just very neutral. And they will bring facts. It comes with facts. So remember that. All right. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in another module.